Oh, hello. Wanted to tell you about one of our H words today. You know, H is our letter. Well, H is for hummingbird. Everybody loves hummingbirds, right? They're tiny, 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 and their wings go so fast. You really don't see their wings flapping unless you slow down. Now, here's an example of a hummingbird. They're good pollinators. They go from one flower to the other. Kind of unique among birds, they can go in any direction. They can make themselves go backward, they can go forward. Look at that tiny, tiny beak that allows that hummingbird to get deep into certain flowers that other things may not be able to pollinate. Now that green there, that's called an emerald hummingbird. Hummingbirds actually migrate, some of them over great distances. I learned something new about hummingbirds, by the way. When they're getting the nectar from those flowers, that's their life. That's the food they need to live on a day-to-day basis. But when they migrate over many, many hundreds of miles. They migrate across the Caribbean Ocean, some of them, and end up in the coast of Nicaragua. And there they have an area that has tons of insects. Well, I found out that after such an exhausting migration, they need the protein that comes from those insects. If those insects weren't there, they would not be able to survive that long migration. So even though we think of hummingbirds as living on nectar, which they do during much of the year, many of them need a protein source at a certain time of their life. That helps illustrate the life cycle. When you talk about habitat for an animal, there are different parts of its life cycle that it needs different habitats. So a habitat that has lots of the nectar, that's important, but it's also important later in their life cycle when they do the migration to have that protein that comes from the insects. Both of those are important habitat needs of the hummingbird. So H is for hummingbird, and I hope I see one on my hike.